Sometime within the next minute or so, somewhere on the planet, another big idea is being born. It might be a new song, a new product, who knows? And who knows how to make this idea grow and introduce it to the world? Let's find out. Welcome to The Next Big Idea with your host, Peter Gantner. The program is sponsored by kulaBrands, dedicated to help with branding, funding, and marketing the next big idea. And if that idea is yours, you want to pay particular attention to the particulars. Peter and his co-hosts and guests will explain just how it's done. If you happen to be an investor or just an interested party, you could benefit from the efforts of kulaBrands. You could become a part of their community of folks who want to help others and make money in the process. If that sparks your curiosity or wets your whistle, sit up and take notice. kulaBrands presents Peter Gantner and his guests on The Next Big Idea.
Hello, this is Peter with The Next Big Idea, and of course I have my co-host Deb Caswell.
Hey Peter, how are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, and of course the globally world famous Mr. Cory Moran.
Well, hello everybody.
I think he was world famous the last time you introduced him too.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe still world famous.
Deborah needs to be world famous. I'm going to do you universe famous. Okay?
That's what I'm talking about. Universe
famous. It's Deborah Caswell, the universe famous individual person.
Perfect.
Fantastic amazingness. So guys, we are here today. We do not have guests again today. We had one show this week already without guests, but I got to tell you what. We are going to talk about some important stuff for inventors. We're going to dig a little bit into manufacturing, the patent situation out there. We're just going to answer some questions. And one of the things we're going to do is put out an email. It's inventorhelp@kulaBrands.com. Inventorhelp@kulaBrands.com. If you have a question that's burning, a hole in your mind of something, anything to do with inventions, entrepreneurship, any of that stuff, you can send an email to that email address, inventorhelp@kulaBrands.com. We will answer it to you through email, but we will also use it as a question to answer on our show, and we will give you credit for asking that question. So if you don't mind, you can put in there, yes, please share with the rest of the audience. We'd love to have that question. So let's jump into manufacturing. I got to tell you guys, when it comes to being an entrepreneur and bringing a product to the marketplace, there are a lot of I's to dot and a lot of T's to cross. There are so many aspects to this entire process. So I think a lot of people get caught up on, I have an idea, and so that idea's got to be worth a gazillion dollars, right? The idea is great, and it is a starting point, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in order for that idea to become a brand, like an Apple, device, or like any other device that's out there, even your toaster. Somebody had an idea for the toaster, but then they had to go through the process of designing it, building a prototype, getting it to work, and then going through probably a legal process of patenting it, whether it's a design patent or a utility patent. They had to go through a lot of steps. So first of all, guys, we've been involved now with over 40 inventors. Cory and Deb, you guys can both talk about this. When you started with kulaBrands, before you went through this process, what's different today about what you understand of the process of what it takes to bring a product to the marketplace, and then what it was before we really began to work with all these inventors?
So I personally, it's funny. I was kind of just laughing to myself when you're talking about the amount that is involved from an idea to fruition. And something that, prior to kulaBrands, I've had ideas. I've had ideas that I thought were great. And, I started down the research road and it ended there, because I think it was mostly because it was a plethora of information, and it was a wealth of knowledge that you have to have and help that you have to get. And so seeing what has happened with the 40 plus inventors, and seeing how the process works from manufacturing to production to designs, packaging, labeling, all that stuff. it's just been mind blowing of how much really goes into, and I can see why now a lot of people that have ideas, they never get off the ground. And I've also seen people come through with ideas, and then they realize that it's going to take this amount of money, this amount of time to put in. It's one thing to have a great idea, but it's another thing to have the drive, the passion, the hunger, and the energy to put in 80 plus hours a week to make things happen. So just the overwhelming amount of things that go into a product's production from beginning to end. That's what I've noticed.
Well, so there's a lot of fear, right? So the fear of I might not know what I'm doing, or there's too much to learn, or the fear of, and that's probably what's stopping most people from bringing it. They hit that fear point. And kulaBrands was built, guys, to bring together a community in a collaborative way, and be able to help provide that support and that help to bring an entrepreneur beyond the fear into that exciting side of things. So again, you can always reach out to us, guys. We're looking, for future brands that we're going to help bring to the marketplace. Deb, what's your perspective on it?
I have this memory of the first time we saw our very first product that came through kulaBrands, and we actually got to see the very first plastic pieces come off of the tooling. I never thought that I would be involved in something like that and actually see it in action. I still have those videos, and I think that was one of the coolest moments when I realized that, you and Doug had said from the beginning of time when we all came together and you started talking about what this kulaBrands thing was going to be, and you had talked about the fact that we'd be able to watch something from concept all the way through to store shelves. And it's true. Getting to see something like that was one of the most magical moments of my life, truly. And we'll get more magical moments like that with some of the other industries that we're in now. It's just crazy. Never thought I'd be a part of most of the industries we're in.
Well, I think, did it blow any of you guys away when you saw your first mold? You think, oh, this is a little 9x9 piece of thing. So like with Zip and Store, it's a decent sized piece. And all of a sudden you find out the mold's like half the size of a Volkswagen and weighs like 3-4 tons. I mean, for me, getting into it, I was blown away, right? I said, oh, I'm going to build a mold. They said, oh, it's $25,000. Why the heck is it $25,000? Well, it's half the size of a car. That's why it's $25,000, right? And there's a lot of complexity that goes into that tooling side of things.
That is what shocked me, Peter, was to see how big the tooling was. We'd talked to Len. We'd talked about the tooling was coming. It was coming over on a ship. It was coming. It was almost here. It was coming. Now it's on a truck and it's here. And I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine that it was going to be as big as it was. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, I've built a lot of tooling, and usually if I build it in China, we made it in China. If we built it in the US, when we did this with Len, it was the first time we had tooling made overseas in China to bring to the United States. By the way, guys, tooling here made in the United States, if it's a $50,000 tool, one of the reasons why things are cheaper to get made overseas, that tool may be like $10,000 or $12,000 made overseas. And so what a lot of people do is they want to make their product in the US, which is what we wanted to do with Zip and Store. But the tooling was going to be, the tooling for it made over in China, there were actually 5 different tools, was $82,000. Here in the US, it was going to be over $200,000. So we had somebody over there make the tooling that is used to making tooling for US manufacturers. Very key there. You must find a tool maker in China that makes tools for US manufacturers. Very, very important. But anyway, so we had this tool made. It gets shipped over. We think we're going to start running it that day, and we're excited for the community. Oh, my goodness, we're going to put these molds in. We open them up, and I still remember the video because Len did a live on it, where he's reaching in, and they decided when they ship the molds, because usually they ship through boat and there's moisture, they pack them with green grease completely through the whole mold. So he's thinking we're going to take these molds out because they were flown in by airplane, very expensive to do it. we were going to go ahead and put these in the machine and start running them. And all of a sudden there's this green stuff, and he's taking it out and he's putting it on his face like it's war paint. We had to send them out to a tool maker, and they went out and cleaned the molds out and then got them back several days later, a couple days later, and then was able to run that tooling, that situation. So let's talk about the prototype phase and getting this ready. So one of the things is, guys, and you may have an idea, but one of the things you're either going to need to do is learn how to yourself make prototypes or hire somebody to make prototypes for you. That is really so you have the idea. You're going to sit down and put that idea on paper. You're going to design it and come and flush it out as much as you can on paper. And then you're going to say, okay, let me build a prototype to make sure it works. Guys, I'm telling you, the patent office is littered with people who had ideas, only did it on paper, never built a working thing. They have patents issued, but those patents are essentially worthless because they never got a working prototype. They can't even move forward because they're more ideas and concepts that they drew out on a piece of paper versus that. So I like to be involved in projects where you've built a prototype of some sort, you know it works, and then you can go from there. So we're coming up on the end of this first segment. So far we came up with an idea, we've put it down on a piece of paper, we've now either built a prototype ourselves or we've had somebody build it. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break because I've done both, had other people do it, and I built prototypes myself. So we're going to be right back after the end of this break.
You're tuned in to Better Living Radio, streaming worldwide across the internet, and you're listening to entrepreneur and thought processor Peter Gantner on the next big idea. Stay tuned. Peter will be right back. You may have heard Jackie Simmons on Better Living Radio. If so, you know that she's full of sage advice and fun ways to view the world that keep your stress levels under control. You may not know that Jackie also offers webinars and trainings on timely topics that touch the most important and sensitive areas of our lives. For your business, there's how to sell with confidence and ease, and the 4 keys of effective public speaking. Both are jam-packed with the tools you need to be seen, be heard, and be profitable. Bringing it closer to home, Jackie shares what she's learned as the mother of a teen suicide attempt survivor in How to End the Teen Suicide Epidemic. In this presentation, Jackie shares the 6 key indicators that your loved one may be at risk and the 6 simple steps anyone can take to mitigate that risk. To see what's coming next and save your seat, visit mindsetseminars.com. Better Living Radio is on the air, and yes, it's everywhere around the world. Are you wondering, hey, what's the big idea? Well, funny you should ask. Our show is called The Next Big Idea with Peter Gantner. In fact, we're back with more on Better Living Radio.
All right, we're back and we're going to talk about prototyping. So I got to tell you guys, I have hired people to do prototypes and I've done them myself. Now, somebody like Len, who's very handy, I mean, he'll sit there and build machines to bend plastic and laser cut things. I mean, when he builds a prototype, it nearly looks like it's ready for the marketplace, like he could stick it on the shelf and sell it. And then there's people like me who my prototypes absolutely look like, I'm not even going to say the word here on the air, but I got to tell you, they serve their purpose. A prototype does not need to be perfect to work. You're doing a prototype so you can get that idea, the concept, first of all, to make sure that it works, but then get the concept to somebody who is a professional CAD person, designer, that somebody like Len, who is that creative person, just to simply give them an idea. So I have taken myself, I'll go to an office supply store, Home Depot. I will walk through and find things and cut them apart. I one time bought a $90 item just to take one part off of that to make a prototype. And you think that's expensive. The rest of it I just threw away, right? It was no good after I took the part off. But what would have taken me to pay somebody to do CAD work on it, then 3D print it, it would have been $300, $400, $500, right, to get it done. And I was able to take that off and see if it worked, to make sure that it worked. So you don't have to build the Mona Lisa when you're trying to do prototypes. They can be extremely rough. I've seen some, you know, people just go in and bend and cut and glue stuff together and make it work for prototyping. You guys have been involved with a little bit of prototyping through our members, them showing us early stage stuff. I think with Neil, with his project, we won't talk a lot about it because he's still in the process of patenting and all that stuff. It's one we haven't come out with yet, but he's shared some drawings with us, right? Ideas and concepts. Can you guys talk a little bit about that side of it from the supporter perspective on prototyping and some of the things? Well, of course, you guys were very much involved in the early prototyping. So when Len first did Zip and Store, right, he did it out of acrylic, so it was very brittle, it would break, where eventually when it was molded, it was made off of a durable product. So any thoughts on that, guys?
I think it's fascinating, and I think a lot of people are fascinated. You know, you got shows like how things are made, and I think really, like, when I look at things, or I have in the past, I'd look at a product or an object and really fascinated to think, okay, now how was this actually made, and how is it made in a grander scale, and what does it look like? I mean, how would they get this piece into that piece? And, you know, my mind starts working. So being able to see the prototypes and the CADs and the 3D printers, and, you know, to see all this put together, it's just absolutely fascinating. And, you know, you have inventors and kulaBrands, and I think a highly attractive part of that is being able to be on the inside of that information, and now you're connecting. Oh, okay, so it works like this. Okay, you have to do this before this, and then the prototype comes into the process at this point, and then, you know, it's one of those things where it's just naturally fascinating to once you're in it, you want to know more. And so prototypes, you know, who knew?
Well, I got to tell you, this is a perfect spot. Sorry for cutting you off, Deb. This is a perfect spot. We are going to plug kulaBrands here. Guys, I love shows like Shark Tank, and the list goes on and on, where they show you parts and pieces of it. They have to put that, the profit, they have to come up with 40 minutes of content. They cannot dig into the details here. By being involved in kulaBrands, right? So check us out. We get into deep detail, right? You're not going to see something and then wonder, oh, I wonder what happened with that product. You're going to get to see the entire process. Let's go through all this stuff, prototyping and legal and getting it to the shelves and getting the first product in and seeing molds running. I mean, you're going to see every aspect of it by being involved in kulaBrands. And if nothing else, don't forget about all the residual money you're going to make and leaving to the next generation, and, you know, being able to be financially free. The journey of Deb's got a smile on her face, and she says, I don't know, I think I like the money too, right? So you guys can't see her because we're on radio, right? But the money's good too. But don't get me wrong, that is part of it. But instead of just being a spectator, which is what it is when you're watching the show, and there's nothing wrong with being a spectator from time to time, why not become part of kulaBrands and be a participant in that aspect of it? Deb, I'm going to go ahead. You had something to say. You might even want to give something a little bit on what I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so much fun, start to finish. It's so much fun to see what goes into all of these different companies. But I was just sitting back thinking about Cliff and Cords of Steel. And I was thinking about when he first came to us, he had it, right? He had his product. He just needed to crowdfund it and get it to us. And then after that, he let us work with him. And as he redesigned his product, and even came up with the next product that they're about to launch here very soon, he let the entire community be involved in every piece of it. And that was just really, it was fun. I loved the way he did it too, because there's a way you can do it right, and there's a way that you can do it not so great. the way he did it was fantastic, and really pulling in the community, building those relationships with the community. He had everybody in our community in his back pocket, just waiting, wanting to be a part of everything that he had. And we have other inventors, you know, who just aren't, they don't bring their stuff to us. They kind of come up with something and boom, here it is without any input. And you don't have as much buy-in that way when you're somebody supporting an entrepreneur. When you can give kulaBrands as much buy-in as possible, they will be with you every step of the way.
Well, that's an important part right there. So let me ask you guys this question. When you're using a product, you receive the product and you were involved in the process, is there truly a difference in the way you feel about especially when it works, right? You get this product and it's like, oh my goodness, this is the best cord I've ever had. So I actually, up until very recently, was still using the very first cord I got 3 years ago from Clef, right? I've never had a cord before Cords of Steel that lasted more than maybe 2 or 3 months, right? I'd get out of the car. So I'm one of these people that leave it plugged in and I get out of the car and all of a sudden I'm getting pulled, right? And it's like, whoa, wait, what the heck? Or the phone flies out of my hand and I break them, or I leave them laying on the ground and I put stuff on top of them and I just beat the heck out of them. And so cords didn't last. Cords of Steel is one of the toughest cords that's on the market, if not the toughest cord. And so these cords have lasted me a long time. And every time I pick up that cord, I think about that I helped make that possible. You guys have that feeling when you're using products?
Yeah, Peter. I think there's, especially when you're seeing the process of it all, and you become emotionally attached to it in a way. And when you know, like for example, the Cords of Steel, when you're seeing how it's made, not only is it their emotional attachment, but when you get to know the person and the story behind that, and you combine that with being able to be on the inside of the process, and then you become emotionally attached to it, I think that's just a whole nother level of appreciating products in the marketplace and appreciating the time, the effort, the money, the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into it. And with anything that you do in your life, there's greater weight with when you're able to attach maybe something from your personal life to what you connected with in the product. And the great thing about kulaBrands too, with so many different products and so many different niches, is that there is something to get emotionally attached to along the road. And, you know, the further the road goes along, the more people get involved. And then, you know, I think it's just a beautiful thing on the personal and on the ultimate kind of overview of what a product really is and what goes into it. So.
That's awesome. Deb, you got anything?
Yeah, no, I just agree with Cory. There is so much, there's so much emotion that goes into getting something that you had a hand in helping design, or even maybe, you know, suggested a color or suggested something, and you see it come out in you know, NetFX Traders was another one that I was thinking of when she came out with her Bodhi bag. She had members help her design that bag. And
feedback, right? Yeah, and be a part of that.
It was very, very special. Yeah.
We've done it with a lot of our music artists, right? Which song do you like? Which photo do you like? I mean, really getting involved and being able to be part of that process and go from there. I got to tell you guys, as an inventor, there was quite a few special moments. And one of them was when we got our product into a Happy Meal. And I drove around and I bought a Happy Meal. I didn't buy 5 or 10 of them because I wanted to go through the line several times. And I actually think the people at the McDonald's thought I was crazy because I went through, got one Happy Meal, drove through, got another Happy Meal. I just love saying, give me a Crazy Bones Happy Meal, right? And if I said, give me 4 Crazy Bone Happy Meals, I'd only say it once. If I went through 4 times, I could say, give me a Crazy Bone Happy Meal 4 times. And if you are in the toy industry, that's like winning the Academy Award of the toy industry, is if you have a toy that makes it into a Happy Meal program. And so that is part of the experience of being a supporter to inventors, is the fact that you may not want to work 20 hours a day or 18 hours a day to bring a product to the marketplace. But if you support somebody who does, you can also get that value from the experience without having to have the pain and the sacrifice there. One of the things I love about our model, it allows hundreds, thousands of people to participate. We will be back after this break with more.
So are you wondering where the next big idea will come from? Well, you'll hear about it first here at Better Living Radio. See, this is the show called The Next Big Idea. Maybe you got the next big idea, or maybe you just like to make some money from it. Peter Gantner will explain when we come back on Better Living Radio. You've heard it said right here, you can't move gigantic boulders unless you've got some kind of leverage. You know, like a crowbar positioned in just the right spot. With enough leverage, you can multiply your strength and move mountains. The idea applies to investing too. Think of it. How'd you like to own companies like Roku or MasterCard or Raytheon and put down as little as 10% to unlock the treasure chest of unlimited upside gains while drastically reducing your risk, and do it all with zero borrowing cost? You just need that leverage and a little know-how. So Dan Frischberg and the entire Money Man team are making that possible. They're handing you your very own investment crowbar in special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos called the Layaway Option Service. It's for beginners and pros alike. Look, if you want to make real money, you owe it to yourself to take advantage of this once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. It's your chance to see the results for yourself. The cost is next to nothing, and look what's waiting for you. Generally, you'll get 3 detailed trades each week, quality, actionable trades. You get detailed instructions on buying and selling specific put and call options. The Layaway Option Service shares specific underlying stocks, expiration dates, strike prices, and shows you how much money you could make instantly. It's Dan Frischberg's proven money-making discipline that over 50 years has made a lot of people rich. Lots of other benefits are waiting for you too, along with these special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos. The Layaway Option Service. Too much to detail here, but it's all right there at themoneyman.com. themoneyman.com. Welcome back to Better Living Radio and this amazing idea for a radio show. It's called The Next Big Idea. Rather ironic, wouldn't you say? Hey, if you've got an idea, you might want to talk with host Peter Gantner or one of his guests here at Better Living Radio. Oh, look, here they come now.
We are back, guys. Peter Gantner here with The Next Big Idea. We're talking about, we've made it to prototyping. And one of the things I really want to make clear, guys, I talk to people all the time. They say, I have this great idea. And I'm like, well, build a prototype. Well, they're like, well, I don't have the money for it. Look, if you are not willing to spend a few hundred or a few $1,000s to get your project started, I don't know if you can expect anyone else to do that. So go in the closet, pull out the Van Gogh or maybe the Picasso you have, sell it, and put it into your product. Now, kidding around, I know most of us don't have a Van Gogh or Picasso, but maybe you have a bike that you haven't been using for a long time, or some piece of exercise equipment, or whatever it may be, or you go and work extra jobs, right? We have the whole sharing economy. Maybe you go to work in the daytime and you go drive 1 hour a day for Uber or Lyft, make an extra $40, $50, and put all of that towards building your prototypes and getting stuff done and making stuff happen. There are sites out there, guys, where you can, and Fiverr's a great site to get stuff done and made. There's overseas engineers that can do 3D CAD work for you, all different types of stuff. So first of all, be willing to put some of your own cash into it. I'm not talking about $1 million, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why businesses like kulaBrands exist. We're going to help with that funding side of it. But we're not going to help you come up with $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 to do your prototyping. We're also not going to come up with the money to do your provisional patent. $1,000, $1,500, you can pay a good attorney to do a provisional patent for you if you get your stuff in order. You are going to have to invest and put some of your own money on the line if you want, even if you're going to license it to somebody. Let's say you say, I just have the idea, I just want to go license it. You're not going to take an idea on a piece of paper and say, here it is, you do all the development, all that work, and pay me a fee. You're going to have to move your project forward. Cory, I believe you got a couple sites maybe available where people, there's 3D printing sites out there, guys, that you can go to to get 3D images done if you do some computer stuff. He's working on it right now. So I'm gonna keep talking here, guys, because there's actually something else we need to cover here, okay? Okay, you have an idea. That idea at this point is worth bupkis, okay? It's worth nothing. You have to take that idea and actually turn it into a product. It has to become something and go through all the rest of this process. Think about if you find somebody who is an engineer who can develop your product, putting together some type of an agreement and giving them an equity stake in the idea and the concept to work with you on it, take their talents. Yes, your idea is the next, thing. And by the way, you ran this idea by grandma, you ran it by your mom, you ran it by your brother and sister, and they all said, oh my goodness, this is the best idea that's ever been discovered by mankind. I love it. Guys, if you're asking mom, sister, brother, cousin, close people that don't want to hurt your feelings, get some outside opinion. We're going to talk about how you protect yourself and do that here in a second. But again, if you are not willing to invest your own capital into it, don't bring it to Peter Gantner and ask me to put my money into it, right? I don't want to put my money into it. Our community doesn't want to put our money into it if you're not willing to risk on it. That is part of being an entrepreneur, guys. Entrepreneur, if you look at the word that means it's risk. Entrepreneurs take risk. They step out on a limb. They don't stay in a comfort zone. They continue to push forward. So Cory, you got anything for us, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to talk about some prototyping tools to use, and I've come across some of these in my own, what I do with graphic design, but steps further and stuff like, Adobe XD, you got Figma, Framer X, Webflow was a big one that I had down, Atomic. And then on the 3D printer side, the 3D model side of things, you have the Thingiverse, PinShape, you've got Turbo Squid, GrabCAD, you got all these different 3D model databases. You can download 3D models for 3D printing. The sources are pretty unlimited, but it's even if you don't even know or haven't even moved into it yet, or you're not at that stage yet as becoming someone with an idea to a product, it's just absolutely fascinating. Even if you're not into it and looking to get into different of these knowledge bases.
Yeah, guys, and being in the position where we are with kulaBrands, we talk to so many inventors, and they think their idea is so big that they don't want to share with anyone. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you are going to do an agreement with somebody, okay, and you're going to say, hey, I'll give you 10 or 20% of my idea, you do not want to just give them the 10 or 20%. You want to put together an agreement that says when you accomplish this, 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 and this, then you own 10%. You can have it vest over the period of a couple of years until vest actual things that they need to accomplish in order to own and be a part of that. If you can get somebody else, a second party, that's not mom and dad, not grandma, right, to invest their time and effort and energy in it, they've got to believe it's a good idea. And now you have two of you that have the same good idea. The other thing too is when you get to this point, you really need to start thinking about, is there really a marketplace out there? I've been in the position wherein I've had people bring me ideas, and then maybe they're in a niche business or a niche way, and they tell me, oh my God, I have this great idea. And it is going to solve a problem in an area. The problem is there's only 2,000 other people on the planet that have that same interest. So even if you hit 100% of the marketplace, you can sell 2,000 of them. So you do want to make sure that there's a broad enough, big enough audience out there that when you do put in all this work and effort and time, that you're going to be able to sell enough of these to get you across the finish line. And there's another point here to think through when you're going through manufacturing. Products must be affordable, okay? When you look at the general marketplace, and what you need to do is not think about the early adopter wealthy people. We all know that when Betamax and VHS first came out, they were $700. Rich people bought them. Eventually, they got down to $49, and everybody bought them, right? So you have to think about that process. The first computers, were literally thousands of dollars. Most homes couldn't afford them, right? Especially when they first started coming out, right? Eventually they become affordable for everybody to get there. But you must be able to manufacture this. And so when you're thinking design development, when you're in this phase, that's why you work with molders, people that understand tooling, people that understand the manufacturing process around your product, in order to make sure that you're going to bring a product that's affordable. We were working on a golf game that we're going to be bringing to the marketplace. When they first kept coming back with prices, the way they were going to make it, this game was going to need to sell for over $100. That was too high of a price point. We kept going and finding manufacturers, making some changes to the design of it. And guess what? We got it to where it's going to be about a $59 to $69 retail. That is a price point where that product can become successful. Cory, you got something to say, buddy? All right. Excellent. I thought you were raising your hand, but I think
I actually did. No, I did. And I was laughing to myself as I was thinking about it. And I was like, should I say it? And I wanted to, if listeners are on right now and heard our show, referring back to the P show yesterday, but then in my head, that didn't sound right. So then I said, okay, going back to the 3P show yesterday, we talked about the 3Ps, the 4Ps, the 5Ps, and then the 6Ps. But I think we had a 7th P today, which was prototypes, right?
Yeah,
so
we do. We have a 7th P there. And guys, what Cory's talking about is persistence, patience, problem solving, progress, perspective, and purpose. And now prototyping. The P's are not what you do in the restroom. It is actually the whole things that are built around being an entrepreneur and bringing products to the marketplace, right? And now I know why you were like, when you're like, I don't know if I want to say that, because people could definitely get that the wrong way.
Yeah, there's a little hesitation there, but glad it came out eventually.
Real quick, going back to what you were talking about, though. Oh God, I forgot what I was gonna say.
We threw you off, didn't we? Guys, I gotta tell you, laughter contagious, and it definitely throws your mind.
You know what that was? That was a silent P.
That was a silent P.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's get back on track here, guys. So prototyping, Cory gave you some great resources where you're going to be able to start getting this stuff going. You're going to have to spend some money. So now you came up with the idea. You put it down on paper. You thought about the idea. You've built your rough prototype. Now you're going to start assembling that team and put it together. The next step is this, guys. If you're ready to go, you can file a provisional patent. Again, we talked about that a little bit, $1,000 to $1,500. I'll have somebody else do it. You can actually do it yourself for a few $100s. There's some basics. There's actually, if you go to uspto.gov, again, uspto.gov, there are some videos. You can go on YouTube, and there are videos that talk about this thing, right? About filing provisional patents and putting that together. Now, if you're not going, you don't think you're going to launch in the next year and have the money to do the prototype, you can do what's called a poor man's patent. That is to draw it up, write it up, stick it in an envelope, mail it to yourself, and do not open that envelope, right? That sets a date and time, because it's going to have a date and time stamp on your envelope. You can actually send it to yourself certified, so you have to sign for it. So you have the proof that that date came in, and now you have a date of invention and creation. We're going to talk about on the other side of the break, because we got about 20 seconds left, NDAs. These are to protect you when you're sharing your idea with people. We're also going to talk about not violating your patents by exposing in a general sense to an outside audience. So we are going to be back after this break with more stuff on the invention process.
You're tuned in to Better Living Radio, streaming worldwide across the internet, and you're listening to entrepreneur and thought processor Peter Gantner on the next big idea. Stay tuned. Peter will be right back. You've heard it said right here, you can't move gigantic boulders unless you've got some kind of leverage. You know, like a crowbar positioned in just the right spot. With enough leverage, you can multiply your strength and move mountains. The idea applies to investing too. Think of it. How'd you like to own companies like Roku or MasterCard or Raytheon and put down as little as 10% to unlock the treasure chest of unlimited upside gains while drastically reducing your risk, and do it all with zero borrowing cost? You just need that leverage and a little know-how. So Dan Frischberg and the entire Money Man team are making that possible. They're handing you your very own investment crowbar in special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos called the Layaway Option Service. It's for beginners and pros alike. Look, if you want to make real money, you owe it to yourself to take advantage of this once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. It's your chance to see the results for yourself. The cost is next to nothing, and look what's waiting for you. Generally, you'll get 3 detailed trades each week, quality, actionable trades. You get detailed instructions on buying and selling specific put and call options. The Layaway Option Service shares specific underlying stocks, expiration dates, strike prices, and shows you how much money you could make instantly. It's Dan Frischberg's proven money-making discipline that over 50 years has made a lot of people rich. Lots of other benefits are waiting for you too, along with these special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos. The Layaway Option Service. Too much to detail here, but it's all right there at themoneyman.com. Themoneyman.com. Better Living Radio is on the air, and yes, it's everywhere around the world. Are you wondering, hey, what's the big idea? Oh, funny you should ask. Our show is called The Next Big Idea with Peter Gantner. In fact, we're back with more on Better Living Radio.
All right, we're back for our final segment today with The Next Big Idea. We've been talking about the early stages of the invention process. We got to the fact of you've built the prototype, either you've done it yourself, you paid someone to do it, you understand and realize that it will work. You've maybe went through and found out from a manufacturer that it can be made. Now you're going to file a provisional patent so you can get that protection. Listen, guys, you do not want to randomly go out there and share your idea with everybody. You want to keep it to yourself as much as you can. If you are going to share it, use an NDA. This is something that says, hey, I'm going to share something with you. If you've already seen or know something about this, you must tell me at that point, hey, my buddy already made that or is already a part of that, and that they're going to hold this in confidence and they're not going to share it with somebody else. So you want to make sure you've done that. And then again, if you don't have money right now, spend your money on your prototype, use the poor man's patent, which is mailing it to yourself to get yourself set and put in place. Get NDAs with everyone else. Now, a provisional patent is going to give you 1 year to file your formal patent. I know a lot of people that do this. They file a provisional, and then they think, oh, I'll get this thing done. They get distracted. It takes them longer than they think. That year goes by. Then they lose that earlier filing date. You can refile a new provisional or file a patent at that point, but you lose that filing date. So let's say that I came up with an idea on January 1st, 2020. And I file a provisional patent. Somebody else comes up with the same idea, not stealing it from me, but they come up with it in October. If I file my patent by January 1st of 2021, then my date of start is January 1st, 2020. I'm the first inventor, and I'll get the rights and the patent to it if a patent goes through. If the person in October, if I don't get my regular patent filed and I file a new provisional in December, now the other person has the earlier filing date as long as they get their formal patent filed by that date and that time. Now, guys, you want to be very careful when you're out doing patents and trademarks. They can get very expensive. It can be a deep, dark hole. It's like buying a boat, right? It's just pour money into it, and it can really suck you in. So one thing you have to decide, is this really worth putting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money? Is it worth skipping your weekends on the softball field or on the beach or in the mountains? Is it worth going and driving Uber or selling something that you have, or taking your hard-earned savings and putting it into a project in order to make it worthwhile before you jump down that rabbit hole and move that forward? So we've come up with an idea. We've put the idea on paper and thought about it and put it together. We built a prototype. Now we filed for some protection in that. Now you're going to get to the phase where it's time to really get, and we talk to developers, and we've made sure that our product can be made at affordable price. Now what we're going to put together is the costings for tooling. What's it going to cost me? I'm going to put together a budget of bringing my product to the marketplace. We're going to later on probably another show talk about the budget for marketing, for launching it. But you're going to put together that budget that says, okay, my tooling is $23,000. My first MOQ, and maybe that's new to people, but it's a minimum order quantity. You can't build tooling and have somebody put a mold in and make 10 pieces. You're going to have to find out when you go through that manufacturing side of things is, what is the minimum ordering quantity that I can do in order to bring my product to the marketplace? And if that's 5 or 10,000 pieces, then you're going to get what the COGS are, cost of goods sold. That is the hard cost. So let's say they come back with a price. If you buy 5,000 of these, it's $8.40. And if I buy 10,000, it's $6.20. Okay. Now you have your COGS, your cost of goods sold. You have your MOQ, 10,000 or let's say 5,000, it's $8.10. Oh, well, then I'm going to have to come up with $45,000, right, in order to get that done, plus the cost of tooling. Now I have my budget put together, tooling plus my minimum MOQ, my first order put together. From there, you could begin to put together a budget. And then, of course, you want to get your formal patent filed, usually about $3,000 to $10,000, depending on the complexity of it. Wow. Deb, Cory, are you guys like, I don't even want to move forward with this process? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 90 grand in the hole and I'm just getting started.
What I love, Peter, is you said earlier, you said, you know, if you're looking to kulaBrands for help, we got your help, but we're not going to do X, Y, and Z for you. But if you're listening to this, if you're a listener out there and you're listening, you hear that Peter's been through this process so many times. He's got it down. He knows what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. And so while kulaBrands isn't going to do those things or pay for those things for you, some of them, right? You're going to, Peter, be able to tell the person where to go, who to contact. Your Rolodex, let's date ourselves here, is quite large with people that you've worked with in the past. And now all of our inventors have brought some of their manufacturers and their resources to us as well. So it's a great place to come and get these questions answered and move forward with your project with a group of people who are there to help.
So our listeners know, when you get to that point of tooling in MOQ, that is where we are going to help through reward-based crowdfunding to help you cover that $80,000, $90,000. The stuff prior to that, you're going to need to come up with yourself. But once you've got to that stage, that's where we come into the picture and we're able to take it. Cory, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I was just gonna just mention that you know, I just sitting there listening to that, I started sweating. You imagine going through that process, and it's a lot of work. And just a couple more P's there, provisional patents. You talk about your knowledge base, Peter, is incredible, and that's from years of experience, and that's from going through it. And you mentioned, you know, you laughed about it, but it truly is where I began the segment at the beginning of this radio show. Was there's that overwhelming feeling of really what goes into all of this, and the way that you've laid it out, and the way that you know, people looking at kulaBrands or being a part of kulaBrands, you know, you can tie that into being able to leverage and outsource and connect with people of a community. And you have a large community of people. Everybody knows somebody, so you're walking into something that's already kind of like a built-in environment where 360-degree turn, you can get help, you can ask for help, and you can leverage help. And
Lauren, right? I mean, a perfect example is somebody with art skills, and we have so many other members that have provided value and skills. Neil on the whole prototype side of things, right? There are so many people that know how to do some of this stuff. And I got to tell you, as soon as you're part of this community, you say, hey, I need help. They raise their hand, right? We just recently had one of our members, Buddha Gear, who are looking for supplies during this situation that we're in, and they're hard to find. They just put out on a call the other day, hey, is anybody with a Joann's next to them? If we purchase stuff, can you go pick it up and ship it to us? There were several volunteers that said, yeah, I'll go to I was one of them, right? I'll go to my Joann's and I'll pick up stuff and I'll make it happen. So having that community there and available on your side, it just goes so far beyond these parts. But guys, don't let this scare you. What we're trying to get forward is the commitment level that you must be at in order to bring a product to the marketplace. Ideas are a dime a dozen. We've all heard that before, right? Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's taking that idea, how it goes from ideas a dime a dozen to becoming a Spanx and making her wealthy beyond her imagination, was that she had an idea. She built prototypes. She went through this process that we're talking about. I have never read her story. I only have seen her in a few interviews and showed some pictures and stuff because she's on my LinkedIn, right? So I see the pictures come up of the early days of the stuff on her porch. But I guarantee you that she went through the same stuff that we've talked about today. This is how she got it to that point and made it happen. Remember, email address, inventorhelp@kulaBrands.com, inventorhelp. Send us your questions. We'll gladly answer any of those questions that you have. And if you put in there, yes, it's okay to share this on the show, we're going to get you an answer directly back to you. And then we're going to share that on the show, and we'll give that answer to all the other, because if you have the question, I'm sure there's another half dozen, 100,000 people out there that would like to hear this question on that side of it and go from there. Guys, we're coming up on the end of this segment. Deborah, any last thoughts on what we've been talking about today?
My last thoughts are, I am glad I am a supporter of entrepreneurs.
I got to tell you guys, that is an easier role, right? I mean, you don't have to go through all this. You just need to support the people that are willing to go through it. Cory, any last thoughts? 30 seconds left, buddy.
Yeah, man, I was just saying, if you don't want to sweat through it all, and like Deb said, if you just want to leverage and be a part of it, there's your solution. We talk about solutions. Here we go.
All right, awesome. Well, guys, thank you for being a listener of The Next Big Idea. We appreciate it. This movement is about the participatory economy. We'll see you on the next show. Thank you for joining us.
Did you ever imagine that these little inventions like radio and the internet, that there was a time when they were considered the next big idea? And yet here you are today, having just heard a program called The Next Big Idea. Peter Gantner is your host. He's one of the founders of kulaBrands, and they can help you whether you've got an idea of your own or you just want to get in on the ground floor of the next big thing. Peter and his co-hosts and guests are here weekdays on Better Living Radio to discuss the ins and outs of creating, manufacturing, branding, and marketing the best of the big ideas. Maybe you've got one, or maybe you want to be involved in one. You're definitely tuned into the right spot. So hear this. You can hear this program weekdays at the same time on Better Living Radio as kulaBrands presents Peter Gantner and the Next Big Idea. You're tuned to